So I'm Sean Thomas. I'm the global IoT lead here for Solenis.
I'm Safason. I'm responsible for managing our IoT platform.
And today we're going to talk to you guys about the development of our Solenis Cloud Display Kiosk. I want to start by asking the audience here, who has built a Cumulocity cockpit dashboard? Show of hands.
Yeah.
Excellent. Who has connected a device to Cumulocity? Excellent. Who has connected a device using thinedge.io? Okay.
Good number.
Who is not a Software AG employee and has connected a device? One. So we're going to take you guys through the business case for why a kiosk-like device here makes sense for the way we are intending to present our cockpit dashboards to our users, how we are integrating the actual display device into Cumulocity, how we are managing the device within Cumulocity, and take you kind of behind the scenes a little bit in some of the Python scripts, the API calls, and everything that we're doing to commission and manage these dashboards. So I will start here with, we'll do an introduction here for Solenis, for those of you that don't know us. So Solenis, we are a global specialty chemical company. We're focused on water treatment, sanitization. Solenis, the genesis of solutions here. Purpose is to improve life through water. Certainly, we have a vision out there to help support our customers and their customers for improving their processes. We are intimately involved as kind of an extension of our customers' engineering, operations, technical support teams. And not only are we supplying chemistry to our customers, but we're also supplying the kind of knowledge of how our chemistries interact with our customers' systems. And as a part of that, certainly, is the need to present the key performance indicators and the real-time look at how are our chemistries performing in their systems. We have a number of different divisions here. The Solenis team that I started with, Heritage Solenis, was the consumer and the industrial team, again, where we are working in heavy industry, pulp and paper manufacturing, water treatment, so boilers, cooling towers, influent, effluent treatment in heavy industry. We recently added diversity to our team here, and that got us into the institutional, the food and beverage markets. We've got our pool solutions team as well. So a number of different end markets that we're playing in, but certainly key here is all the same. Water treatment, making sure that we are helping our customers achieve their goals through the proper application of our chemistries. So big focus of us is our people, our experience, and then certainly the technology. So that's where Cumulocity comes in, and our IoT space here, being able to monitor our different chemical programs and present that back to our customers. So some examples here of the different types of cockpit dashboards that we've built here over the last year. This has kind of been a fundamental year for us in building out the baseline capabilities of Solenis Cloud, the platform here that we're building on Cumulocity, and the different ways that we're presenting our information back to our users. We are monitoring the performance of customers' cooling towers and boilers. We are monitoring inventory levels and helping our internal teams as well as our customers to better manage the inventory that they have on site. And as an extension of this really is the best way that we can present this back to our users, our customers, in a large kind of environment like this is potentially on a display that might be up in a control room or in an office that we might have on site. And a lot of times that doesn't lead to having an individual login, but having potentially a kiosk device like this present that cockpit dashboard in kind of an autonomous fashion like this, where you might not necessarily interact with it, or potentially with a keyboard and mouse where you could interact with it. So when we looked at how can we easily bring our cockpit dashboards that we spent all this time connecting the device and setting up the dashboard and designing this digital solution for our customers, and how can we easily bring that to our team. So we looked at certainly this unique use case of an individual login wouldn't necessarily make sense if you've got a shared environment like this. We'll get into the SSO implementation that we've done within in Cumulocity and how that's a little bit prohibitive for this. But really the business objectives that we were looking at here was we needed a simple, almost turnkey solution to be able to deploy this, manage it through the platform, and have a small enough form factor and price point that it could be attractive to both our teams and our customers to deploy. Another thing we wanted to do is we're consolidating kind of the management of these dashboards into cockpit and empowering our teams to build, design, and manage these dashboards there. So we wanted to look at how could we do the same with this display device? How could we incorporate that into cockpit in such a way that we could manage literally all of the parameters and settings of this device from cockpit? And how could we set it up in a way such that our end users, our Solenis sales teams working on site at these industrial locations, could be the ones that are actually managing this device? We didn't want this to be a task that would require an admin level or any sort of advanced interaction with the device, but a simple user interface to manage the resolution of the device. What is being displayed on it, the URL, what's the time zone of the device, that kind of thing, and manage it all directly through Cumulocity through cockpit. Now we'll get into some technical objectives.
Yeah.
So certainly we looked at what is the best form factor, what's the best way to deliver this. We settled on the Raspberry Pi. These things are great. I don't know if anyone has played around with these, but a low-cost Linux-based processor here that was really, for the most part, readily available, and certainly we could design this in such a way that it was remotely managed through the platform, that we could visualize using Chrome on it, a web browser, and bring these cockpit dashboards to our users in a kind of full screen kiosk mode here, and certainly could be remotely managed through the platform. So very small form factor. There's actually one right here behind this screen. Zeph, you want to talk about our platform here?
Yeah, so our use case was how we can provide our user a single credential access to our multiple independent application. So in our enterprise IoT platform, we have multiple tenants, around 16 in case. And once we tries to find out a way how we can give our user a single credential to access all these 60 applications, and also inside our the platform, we have multiple sets of other applications apart from Solenis and other cases where we have Salesforce. So the multi-tenancy was the challenge, how we can give our user only an access to a platform where they can log in via one credential using Azure B2C, and the session will go on if the user tries to open multiple user tenant. So yeah, we have the options to integrate our IoT platform with single sign-on. We use Azure B2C, commonly known as Microsoft Entra now these days. So the basic fundamental how it authenticate with our platform, it uses a user token, which is valid for a 1-hour session. If the user is inactive, the session long for 1 hour, and if the user is interacting with the platform, then the user session is only for 24 hours. And after that, it auto logs out the user from the platform.
So certainly that presents a problem for this type of a public environment, to where the user would automatically be logged out after 24 hours, and we needed to find a way that we could potentially use a device that's connected to Cumulocity and continually interacting with the platform to re-authenticate and do all of that automatically. So certainly Thin Edge was a very welcome development here in the last year, at the same time that we kicked off this project, and we were able to really leverage the two-way capabilities of the Thin Edge agent to manage that connection to Cumulocity, to not only authenticate the device and do device control on the back end, but then also use that for the front end authentication for how we are outputting and authenticating with cockpit to display these dashboards. It was all built using Python for the different scripts, not only for the device operation, but then also the initial setup and commissioning of this device. And we're leveraging a lot of the different features of Thin Edge, the remote access feature in there, smart REST device operations, mentioned the token there. And then certainly we also integrated all of the code here into GitHub and have that set up now for automatic updates. So effectively, this is a CI/CD pipeline for maintaining a current version of this code in all of our now global deployment of this device.
Yeah, we are using GitHub Actions to do the CI/CD pipeline, where we could have like hundreds of kiosk devices spread out, but how we can push one kind of changes to all our devices at one go. So we are trying to do, or we are in the process of defining the CI/CD platform, where we will push the code from the GitHub to the Cumulocity Operation API, and the Operation API will execute the command on the Thin Edge agent, where eventually it will execute on the device.
Yeah. Would you like to take us through the architecture here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the device over here, which is connected to the router, and the device is authenticating via the device credential to the platform. And the cockpit is what we have used mostly our own custom widgets. And the custom widgets is all hard-coded in the cockpit. So we are also in the process of moving those widgets in parts of a plugins so that it would be more easily available. So we have an option in IoT, three options to authenticate our normal user to front-facing application. One is the OAI secure basic authentication and the single sign-on. As we have logged our preferred login method to single sign-on, we cannot offer anyone without accessing our Azure B2C login. So the Azure B2C login is our first facing for all our customers. So any user who would like to log into Cumulocity, they will have to go to the Azure B2C, which actually has a limitation on the session. And throughout, we get the, even though you had the preferred login page as a single sign-on, we can still get the JWT token, move it to the IoT bridge, and from that, the device authentication works.
So a number of different scripts that we have on the device that are running. The three initial ones up here are the initial configuration of both the device, registering it with the platform, doing some of the initial setup and configuration of the device template that we've downloaded onto the SD card. The user one here is a really cool one, and we'll go through that in detail. So this is aligning the group assignment of the device in Cumulocity through device manager that you might set with the user. So we're using both the device credentials as the back-end device authentication as well as the front-end user authentication for displaying the cockpit dashboard. And what we've done is we've aligned that to where when the group assignment is set, we run the user script, and then it updates the user role as well as the inventory assignment so that we're able to match those up. So effectively, this device would be registered to one of our customer sites within a specific tenant, And when it's assigned to that site group, it would have access to all of the dashboards at that site, all of the devices, and be set up so that our users could effectively both manage it and view all of those at that site. The middle group of scripts here are routines that we run. I'll go through the refresh token script here. This is where we're pulling that JWT, passing that as a Chrome header extension, and using that within Chrome to do the automatic authentication. The screenshot, this is a cool thing where we are creating an event record, and then we send a screenshot PNG file to Azure Blob Storage at the same time through this API, and it allows our users to remotely access the dashboard configuration page and see what is being displayed on this device. So it's a check for verification for our teams if they're not physically in front of the kiosk to see what is it actually showing to my users. And that's done on a regular basis or on demand, triggered as an operation. Metadata and measurements, we're sending those on a regular basis to track what is the configuration of the device, what is the health of it, et cetera. And then the Smart REST template device operations here. So this is a number of different operations that are triggered through Cumulocity device operations that allow us to run these subroutines on the device, allow us to remotely reboot it, change the resolution of it, change the time zone of it, change the displayed URL. All of those are triggered through device operations from cockpit from the front end and allow us to remotely manage these devices. And then some other stuff at the bottom here. We've got the ability to deploy this without effectively connecting it initially to a Wi-Fi network, and then give users the ability to assign that to a local Wi-Fi network if it doesn't automatically connect to the internet, as well as a fun splash screen that we have on there to show some Solenis imagery and some other kind of advertising at the beginning as the thing is booting up and coming online. You want to go through these scripts, or would you like me to?
You can go.
All right. So the registration script here, we start with logging into the device. It has everything installed on it. It's not yet registered with Cumulocity. We trigger this registration script, and we're seeing this as the team that is setting up and initially commissioning this. It might be our remote monitoring center. It might be an administrator. We are preparing this for shipment out to the site. So we would assign it a device serial number. We would determine which of the 60 tenants we were going to register it to. And by providing admin credentials and at least some initial device metadata, we're able to begin that registration process automatically. The script processes this, registers the device with Cumulocity using the TEDge commands of ThinEdge there, installs the cron jobs on the device, sends the initial device metadata and measurements to Cumulocity, expands the small image to the full size of the SD card, does that initial obtaining of that JWT, passes that to Chrome to update that, and then actually also creates the initial configuration dashboard through API. So the dashboard that's shown over here on the kiosk is automatically created and assigned to that devices as a dashboard. And then the script ends by requesting that the user go to the device management application to register this device in the correct group folder or folders so that we can run the next script, which is the user alignment here. So same principle. We start with entering the admin credentials. It's able to obtain the device token so we know what the device user is. We then read what group assignments did we just do in device management in the end of the last step. It formats the device user. We delete all of the current role assignments in there, so we remove that it is a device, and then we reassign that it is in this Solenis Kiosk user group. So this is going to limit the visibility of this user just to what groups it's assigned to. Then we go through and we delete the inventory role assignments, add it back to that as a reader. So now, again, its visibility is limited just to what group is it assigned to. Update the kiosk URL that's displayed on there. Do one last refresh to obtain the latest JWT. And then we set a cron job to run and accept that cookie notification at the end so that we don't have that pop up. And request that the user manually restart the device. We'll show a live demo here on this in just a second. Would you like to go through this one?
Yeah, so we have the JWT token from the platform itself, which we can extend it to like 20, any hours that we want. Currently, it is 15 hours that we have extended our JWT token on. But on the Pi side, we are updating every hour. So to test the JWT token, we check before expiring of the JWT token, we make sure that we update the JWT token. So obtain the new device Cumulocity token via the agent, and we pass it to the MQTT to display the cockpit authentication. Yeah. So format, it just passes that same JWT token as Sean was saying on the Chrome header, and script the reference for the new token, which auto update every hour. Then it opens the Chrome, loads the whole cockpit application, and it displays you the first group assignment dashboard, which is assigned to that kiosk device. Then it refreshes again and update the JWT token, and the loop will keep on going every time, every hour, and the visual of the cockpit always remain 24/7.
So this runs as a cron job in the background every minute. It checks to see whether it's halfway to token expiration. If it is, it runs through the entire workflow. If it does not, it ends and then waits until it reaches that point. The screenshot here, we're creating that event. So we are taking that PNG snapshot, and then if you want to talk about the custom API we wrote for that.
Yeah, so we cannot store a lot of images in Cumulocity. We have the option to store it as a binary, but it takes, as we are taking every 15 minutes, the image size will increase. So we are offloading that image to Azure Blob Storage. So we have a microservice which authenticate with the Azure Blob Storage, and which uses an API, post API, where you can put the image binary details, and you made a post API, and it takes that image and creates the metadata in events, and at the same time it pushes that image to the Azure Blob. And that API works on both ways. You can post it to the blob, and there's an API to get and fetch the images from the Azure storage.
So our Smart REST template workflow here, we have a number of different subroutine operations that can run here. Again, all of these are triggered from cockpit and run a lot of these. So that screenshot that we just talked about can be not only triggered by the cron job on the Raspberry Pi on a regular basis, but then also on demand by users. Same with the time zone here, so that can be triggered remotely. The token, mentioned that, runs both as a cron job. We can also force a token refresh from the configuration page. The URL refresh, so this is the initial page that's displayed when it boots up. We can set that from cockpit. Same with the display settings. If we wanted to display this on a very small 800 by 600 monitor all the way up to 4K, we can manage all of that through cockpit. Change the SSID as well. So if it is connected either via Ethernet or a current wireless connection, we can change that SSID remotely as well. And then certainly still working through how we're going to push or pull GitHub updates, but we have the ability right now to do that GitHub clone of the latest updates and update all of the files on the device and force a reboot. Now some live demos that are recorded so that we know that they work. We will go through the registration process here and this script. So you guys probably can't see all of that all the way in the back, but what we're doing here is we're assigning the kiosk number, we are assigning which tenant are we going to register it with. We put in our tenant manager credentials here. We put some initial metadata in here. That's going to show up on the cockpit dashboard. Where is it located physically at the customer location, that kind of thing. And then it goes through the registration process here. So it has created the certificates and uploaded it. It's going through the initial workflow here of setting up ThinEdge. It has installed the cron jobs. It's now running through some initial tasks on the device. So it's creating that initial metadata, it's creating the initial measurements and sending that to Cumulocity. It's expanded the partition on the SD card. It has created and installed the dashboard. Includes a link directly to that if you want to visit that. And the script has successfully ended, and it has created the device, shows the initial credentials right there, and the initial JWT that we pulled, as well as a link to click on to go to device management to do that initial group assignment. And for the next script here, this is the user alignment script. So we've clicked on that link. It's now opening and taking us to device manager. I'm sure you're all familiar with this view. We'll go down here to group assignment, and this is where we're going to assign it to 2 different groups. We'll bounce back to the terminal here, and we'll trigger that user alignment script. And then this workflow will go through again using that same manager credentials to align the inventory role of the user with which groups it has just been assigned to for the device. And that's it. This device is commissioned, it is registered with the platform, and it's ready to reboot. We'll go to the dashboard page that we created in that first step, and this is set up so that the initial page might display like this to our users. They could pull out their mobile device, they could directly access this with their own user credentials through that mobile device, and then do the configuration, update the initial URL of what's being displayed on the device, do any other initial configuration, and it's all set up and ready to go. So one last quick video here. This is the actual HDMI output that came from this initial device when we have completed the registration, and we'll allow it to reboot here and take you through what it looks like when it first boots up, obtains that JSON web token, passes that to Chrome, and then does the authentication automatically. A nice splash screen that we show every time that we can reboot this. We'll cycle through a bunch of good Solenis imagery there. All that can be remotely updated through GitHub as well. Here's Chrome loading. You'll see it quickly flash to the logging into Solenis Cloud. We'll get rid of that pesky cookie banner at the bottom here in just a second. That's the process right there of obtaining the new JSON web token, passing that in the background, and re-authenticating. Our mouse went down there automatically and clicked, got rid of that banner. Or it'll do it here in just a second. Yep, there we go. And then it's got a mode to where we can take it into full screen as well if we want to. So the mouse will automatically click there and take you to full screen. Want to take us through the roadmap here?
So we have a microservice which is from the Cumulocity. It's for the remote access. We have deployed that microservice, remote access microservice, on our enterprise tenant, and from that we have subscribed to all our subtenants. By doing that, we had the access on the device management. We can remotely access our SPI devices using the VNC or SSH connection. So we can remotely log in without having the device available, and we can just directly open the terminal from the device management of Cumulocity. So if you have the access to the device management, then you can go into and run some commands on the device. So we are working on a rotation of the dashboard where we can make it more enhanced version, where whenever you talk about a dashboard and it get logged in, and it should only focus on that dashboard without having to be on any other place.
The interactive touch screen here, this has been a fun new addition and toy to play with. A cheap $120 monitor off of Amazon here, and we're able to remotely or access it through a touch screen. We see a number of use cases here of potentially putting this into a lab environment for data entry, or certainly being able to interact with this and have it in a nice tabletop form factor there. Potentially even expanding into a tablet if we wanted to go that route. So a number of different ways we can continue development on this. Certainly a number of acknowledgments here. Nico, thank you and your team for helping us through figuring out how to use that JSON web token and use that for the front-end authentication. The Solenis Digital Solutions team here, thank you guys for all your support on this, our developers with Tech Mahindra CEI, and then a number of different incorporations of software projects into this. Really made this the success that it has turned out to be. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much indeed. That was really interesting. Any questions?
So thank you for the presentation. So I was wondering, in what kind of physical environment are you running these Raspberry Pis? So is it on the actual shop floor at the customers, or is it somewhere outside of the actual production environment?
Great question. Certainly, our initial use cases are kind of in a cleaner environment, so in that control room, non-hazardous environments. But potentially, yeah, we could deploy this out on the shop floor in a dusty, potentially wet environment if we can put this inside of that proper enclosure and make sure it's protected enough. And if we needed to upgrade the consumer level Raspberry Pi to something that's a little bit more robust, certainly we'd have the ability with this image to transfer that over to a more industrial rated Pi if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Yes.
That was an awesome presentation. Just wondering, I see a lot of people also making pictures at the scripts and the flow.
Yeah.
Is that something you're planning to publish and contribute back to the CNH open source community?
I think we could probably do that. There's nothing that isn't too proprietary in here, or certainly wasn't a collaboration by everybody here. So yeah, we'll definitely.
That's great. So everybody who's interested in setting something up similar,
reach out to us and we'll provide you a starting point for sure.
Yeah, so also from my side, thanks for the great presentation. It's really impressive to see what you are building. And I was especially interested in the CI/CD aspect. So you said you were running some GitHub actions to update the devices. Can you shed a little more light on that? So are you building that on your own, or is there any libraries you're using for, I don't know, something like Canary rollouts or whatever?
I mean, we are still in the process of defining the whole CI/CD, but we have already tested it out that we will run a command, a pad token command in the Raspberry Pi, which will eventually create a repository sync between the GitHub and the remote device. Once you had that connection made, then the device will reach out to GitHub to trigger the actions. And the action script will eventually hit the operation API in the device management, and the operation API will eventually take that command of GitHub clone into the device, and it will update the repository locally. So we are still in the process. We have tested out the pipeline, but we still have to work on it. It's in our roadmap.
Certainly, one key of this whole project has been how can we limit storing credentials on the device? How can we have that to where it can be accessed through that thin edge connection and obtained, pulled down, and use that as the primary means of authenticating the device, both with the platform and potentially GitHub as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, no, I'd just like to say once again, thank you very much, Sean and Seth, for an excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.